Alright, hi everybody. It's Bonkai922. Doing it in my room this time because my father, whatever. But anyway, Guilty Crown. Final episode. Wow. This series totally took everyone by storm, in my opinion. Totally took everybody by storm. Um, this was, man, this was great. Unbelievable. All right, let's get into it. Then I forgot actually the name of this episode. I think it was called Convergence. Convergence. I think that's what it was called. But anyway, beginning of the episode, we have Shu. Guy's already turned Inori into mana. She supposedly devoured her, or absorbed her, or something along those lines. And basically what happened was, she sees Shu. She's woken up and sees Guy, and she sees Shu. She's so excited to see him. Then she starts talking bad about Inori and saying how glad I got rid of her. She was a nuisance. Blah blah blah. And then Shu pushes her, pushes Mana, and war of words, and says, and she's pissed off at him because obviously, well, you're so mean. And that's when things get hectic. And what happens is, I think what happens is Mana and Guy are on these platforms, and they're rising from where it is, this rising platform, and Mana goes on this. I think it's Guy. He makes this grid that she goes on to and activates the virus. The virus is actually going to be shoot into all over the world and turn everyone into crystals, supposedly. While that's happening, we have ISA and Tsugumi, and they're trying to fight Daryl. Daryl the Butcher, the guy, the blonde guy, enslaved. And they're fighting all these enslaves and everything, and they get Haruka they back up Haruka because she's going to go and confront her brother. And that's what's happening there. And while that's going on, we have this also scene with Ari, the president, some council. She's confronting these soldiers and so on and so forth, and using her void. While that's going on, also, there's a lot of things going on in this episode. It's crazy. Tsugumi is trying to. What happens basically is once Mana starts twirling around and activating it, Tsugumi has a problem hacking the software because that guy Kenji, he's also preventing her from hacking it. So that's a problem. And Daryl, this guy got all the enslaves were turned off because of that, because of Mana. Pretty crazy shit. And so they got the upper hand, and then Daryl and I say to get out of there and get to another enslave to plug it in, and then she gets hit by it. And meanwhile, we also, at the middle of this, have this interesting conversation between Haruka and what's his face? I forgot his name. Her brother. And basically, he's saying, Chu's father, I think it's Karasu. Look, the girl you wanted to save is now causing the destruction of the world. That's pretty much what she's saying. And then Haruka shows up. And then we get the fight between Guy and Shu. Guy, it's back and forth, using all the voids. At one point, Guy uses this huge sword from Mana to hit the ground, and Shu dodges it, but he's on the ground kneeling, and And Shu's asking himself, am I going to die here? Is this it? Is this it? And that's when, and Guy says, it's over, Shu. We see this flower. This is an interesting scene. We see this blue crystal flower, and it's supposed to be Inori. And she's telling him to get up and to not, just stand there. You can still fight, so on and so forth. And these red strings, which is evident of when, the thing with, in the beginning where she has this red string and she creates this little, like, tower thing. Red strings come out of Shu's hand and go into the flower, and he grabs it, and he's able to get at the sword, to get Inori's void from it. And then he just has a huge battle with Guy. And when that happens, Aisei is able to get the upper hand again against Daryl. Sugumi, she's able to get the upper hand against Kenshi. Because that guy, I forgot the guy's name, but Funeral Parlor, who had the long silver hair, he shows up and points a gun to Kenji, about to shoot him. And then what happens is during Shu's fight, he defeats Guy. He attacks him, he slashes him while going down this shaft. It's pretty crazy. He attacks, he slashes him, and that's when Mana is destroyed and Guy loses. And everything's back to normal. The whole, turning everyone into the apocalypse kind of virus, spreading it around, it ends. It stops. And at that point, Haruka's brother, he injected the virus into himself and turns into a crystal. But before he turns into a crystal, he says to her, it wasn't me and it wasn't Caruso who was going to stop this. Saying it was Shu in that regard. So then, after all that happens, Shu is taken to a different place with Guy, and he's basically telling him this is after the apocalypse. This weird place where it's all crystallized and everything from the virus. And this is a place after the apocalypse where everyone's memories are in these crystals. Pretty much that's what he's saying. And he's explaining him, and they're going to different locations. They go to a location, they go to the church where Mana was, and he's basically explaining to Shu that I needed to do this because Mana would have just continuously resurrected herself if this wasn't done, if I didn't do this, because he knew that eventually you would come after me to stop me. And he basically says, my job is done, go save me. And he turns into a crystal and dies. And then he returns Shu, and he sees Mana, who is obviously not Mana anymore, it's Inori. And he's hugging her, and he just puts his hand in the air and activates his void. And everything, where the virus went, where all around the world, was going into him. And the voids, too. He was returning the voids. So he was absorbing the virus and returning the voids. And while that's happening, he's getting crystallized. I said, no! And then everybody realizes that it's Shu's doing and everything, and so on and so forth. And we have a scene with Daryl, and he's rescued by this guy, and this guy gets killed, and everybody's running around, what have you. He's absorbing all this virus. Really, it's more focused on Shu towards the later end of this episode. He's absorbing it all in, and then we see this scene where he sees Inori, and Inori gives him this red string, and he takes it, and she just leaves. And at that moment, we see Shu again. The virus completely comes off him. Building gets destroyed. Everybody's waiting for Shu to come out. They don't see him. And then from there, I think Aisei says, Shu, it ends, and the tower just crumbles down. And then it says, a few years later. A few years later, we have Yahiro. We see Yahiro, Sugumi, Ayase, Sota, and another one, I forgot her name. And they're gathering everywhere. Everyone's gathering. And this is a few years later. I think from what they were talking about, Sugumi's a teacher, and Ayase is a student or something, or she's teaching her stuff. Anyway, it seems like they're celebrating a birthday. You see a birthday cake? It says, "Happy Birthday, Hari." And then they're waiting for somebody, and somebody comes. It's Shu. And here's the funny part about Shu. His right hand, it looks like automail. Fullmetal Alchemist. So his right hand's like automail, and he's there. They're obviously there. It's actually very sad. Celebrate Hari's birthday. And while after that happens, that scene, we get another scene, and they're celebrating. Cheers, and he's in the park, sitting on a bench by himself. He puts this device in his ear, and he just sees this. It's him and Inori together. And then you just get a montage of scenes with Shu and Inori. And that's how it ends. And at the end it says, "Thank you all who have stuck with this series till the end. IG Productions." That's how it ended. Unbelievable. Oh, by the way, I have to say it right now. If this comes on Blu-ray, no bullshit. Soundtrack. No question. Funimation, if you're listening to this, soundtrack. You have to give it a soundtrack. You have to. Infinite Stratos got a soundtrack. It's bullshit. Give Guilty Crown soundtrack. But that's how it ended. Total 5 out of 5. Not even bullshit. This was epic. It was great. But at the same time, it was very sad. I mean, it's one thing that Hari died, but Inori too? But Shu survived. He lived. Everyone who said he was going to die, he didn't die. It was more or less what happened was simply this. Inori absorbed the virus. That's what I think what occurred. So what she gave this red string thing to him, I think it was a symbol to say that you're going to be fine, you go back, and she died. Very sad. But, I enjoyed it. This was a great show. I think everyone should watch it. Fucking Guilty Crown, motherfucker. Great show. I don't know if I'm going to do this video I said I was going to do, the overview. Maybe tonight. I don't know. I think I'll wait for it. A lot of ending episodes coming. DxD, High School DxD, Premiere of Zero, another. So I don't know. But this show was great. Started watching it in October, finished late March. Tremendous. Guilty Crown. Best show. Could be the best anime I've seen so far from IG Productions as far as this kind of show is concerned. So, this has been Bonkai 922. Guilty Crown. See you guys later.